What is up, guys? This is Harv with Harv's Corner. Today, we're going to talk about a cool mod, very big mod, very large mod. We're going to hit the basics on this mod because of how big it is. We're going to talk about Primal Fear. Primal Fear offers too much. This offers a whole lot of creatures, extra abilities, extra bosses, extra items, extra buildings. This is a huge mod, and we're just talking about the basic one. Now, Primal Fear has a lot of different add-ons that do a lot of different things, but we're just going to be talking about the core in and of itself. And for this video, I called in some backup, somebody who has played Primal Fear with me a couple of times and really enjoyed it, and that was my buddy SBDRaptor. If you chime into any of our Twitch streams, you probably heard Raptor in the background playing on the same server. He plays on our PvE servers. And Raptor also streams on Mixer games like Borderlands 3, Division 2, and Ark Survival Evolved, of course. So we're going to throw a link to Raptor's Mixer in the description. Feel free to drop by and say hey, and hang out with him too. But we're going to delve right into it. Your main structures are pretty much here. We can kind of explain the structures, the tiers of the dinos, and the tiers of the items kind of all tie into each other. The Raptor's going to help me out explaining some of the tames here, as well as how some other stuff works that he's a bit more familiar with than I am. But we're going to kind of go back and forth. All the way to the left is a normal Raptor, what we normally see in the Ark universe. Just to the right is the first tier of some of the animals you're going to see in here, and those are toxic creatures. Toxic creatures apply their melee damage over to torpor instead of normal damage. These are great for knocking out other tames, and it scales with their melee damage. The next up that you have are alphas. Now, I know most people say alpha, and you think alpha raptor, alpha carno, alpha T-Rex, alpha mosa, alpha megalodon, the stuff that you would normally see. Not so much in this. Think of just about any creature in the Ark universe could have an alpha variant, and that's what you're looking at. And this is the alpha raptor. The one all the way to the right is the apex version. This is even a higher version of this, and again, you're going to see these all over the place. So these are really kind of your basic tiers, but there is a whole lot more tiers. You have elemental dinos that do all sorts of crazy electrical damage and fire damage and poison damage. You also have dark and light creatures that do a little bit of mix everything up a little bit. We also have access to things like fabled creatures like this Equus here. In comparison to a normal Equus, it's substantially bigger, and they have increased stats on top of that. So all their stats get increased even higher. Fabled are what you're going to see for more your workhorse, no pun intended, and resource dinos. You're going to see mammoths and anklos and argentavises and obviously Equus and a lot of others. And they're easily distinguishable by the color pattern on the creature itself. You're going to run into elder creatures as well. Elder creatures are really just a huge and large version of a smaller creature already. And this is just an example here of that's a normal otter, and this is the elder otter. And we can actually ride this otter. He's so big. So you get options like that too. A lot of these animals, and we're going to take the raptors, for instance, right here, often have the same sculpt. They're just enlarged, color changed, and they get abilities. And even with the one toxic raptor, he gets that little toxic cloud coming out. All right, so the tiers that we're looking at, normally, like very basic, right? This is like a normal raptor, and this is the toxic raptor. Now, the toxic raptor, he doesn't he convert all his damage over to torpor instead?
Not all of it, but it converts a lot of, and it does additional torpor damage.
Gotcha. So he does more damage than okay. All right, on. And then it scales with the melee damage, if I'm not mistaken, right? And the alpha and the apex, the step up difference is just overall stats compared to a normal creature.
Yeah, you get like a 5 or 10 time multiplier on the alpha, and I'm going to say it's like 15 or something like that on the apex.
Understood.
Like, it's a nice jump.
Fair enough. And then obviously the fabled critters are substantially bigger, but these are more for like herbivores, right? Like your kind of utility dinos are all fabled.
Yeah, it's more utility.
So, because I remember seeing like the anklo and the mammoth, like you don't see very many, with the exception of the RG, I don't see very many things that I would take to a fight. Right. Now the standard elders are just basically bigger.
Yeah.
Like big enough that you can ride.
But you get boosted stats with them too.
Right. You get boosted stats with them, but you can actually ride them around, which I think is pretty funny.
Yep.
And this dude's primal?
Yeah, he's
but they're not normally tameable, right?
No, you can't do anything with this guy.
Okay. They're just
It's like if you look at him now, you can't even ride him. Even though I force tamed him and rode him over here, you can no longer tame. You can no longer ride him.
Right on.
And
that's all primal, and they're all significantly huger because we saw the primal aloe out there earlier.
Yeah.
The male in here, now this is actually based off of an Equus sculpt. It's enlarged significantly. It's bright pink and white. has smoke. It walks around. It flies, but it flies like just basically runs across the air. And it's a unicorn that can spawn in boas to fight for you. So essentially in this expansion, the Celestial and the Demonic, as far as what you can tame, like without boss fighting and stuff like that, is pretty much as high as you get, right?
Demonic Reaper, the Celestial Endom are the two like biggest, baddest things that you can get before you start going like crazy into stuff.
And Celestial creatures also have like the charge up ability too, right?
Yes. That's what makes them such badasses.
And that's a stamina drain?
Yep.
So it's a constant, it's like a toggle on off, constant stamina drain. And,
yep.
And the Demonics usually have some sort of fire-based ability, right?
Demonic, yes.
That's kind of the trade-off, right? You get the charge-up ability versus the giant firebomb stuff. Which, it seems like most of the firebomb stuff is like an AoE attack.
Yep.
Which I guess is also the trade-off where I guess a demonic creature would be good at swarms, a celestial creature would be more towards fighting things one-on-one.
Yeah, definitely.
And I assume the origin creatures are kind of, they're more or less bosses, but they're like world bosses, like roaming around.
Yes.
And they're higher than Celestial?
No. They're one level below Celestial.
And then these are the only 5 structures we really added as far as structures go. Would be the Indie Forge, the turret, the smithy, the force field, and the regular forge. And the forges just burn shit faster.
Yeah, both forges, they convert everything at health a lot faster.
I actually like that the Indie Forge is so much smaller too.
Yep.
God,
that's really nice.
Fucking awesome. I want one. That's so cool. I need that.
I know, right? I miss it.
Yeah, the turret does more damage, and then this smithy does more than just a normal smithy because it's got, you can tell it's got the little mortar and pestle on the top. But this thing does all the narcotics, all the ammo, everything, right?
Yeah. You can make the different antidotes, narcotics. The taming helpers are huge.
Oh, that's right, because the taming helpers can help you starve the animals down quicker.
Yep. And then you also had the stimulants if you needed to wake something up faster. They have those as well for the dinos.
Right, and then they had higher level narcotics.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they had the tame helper, but didn't they have like an XP thing as well?
Yeah, where you could give
Potions.
You could give the dinos XP.
Health.
But you got those off of killing shit.
You couldn't make those.
Oh, so here you go. Here's one of them.
Right on. Oh yeah, right. The little purple. Yeah, I remember these now because they come from like small all the way to large. You just
here's some small ones.
They just give you straight XP when you apply them.
Yep.
Now, can we drink? I knew we always put them on the dinos and level them up. Can we eat them too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So they can give you XP or the creature's XP. You just throw it on the creature and give it XP. Like your armors and weapons stack just up, just like these guys do, right? It goes. There's a toxic version of some of the weapons. There's an alpha version armor. There's an apex version armor. There's primal armor, origin armor, celestial armor, like all of it. If you have Primal Fear loaded, you're going to wander around the map and you're going to see these guys spawning in all over the place. Bear in mind that if you're brand new, this is going to be hard. This mod, I think, is very much intended for late game sort of playing. If you're starting from level 1 on this, it's going to be very difficult for you. It's not going to be easy. But I guess I would if you're going to run this mod, I would say you definitely want probably either a cluster or you want to be on a server that has pretty much access to most animals. Like you probably want, maybe Ragnarok would be a good map for it because it's got a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah. Like I said, you need something that has a wyvern trench, but also has the Arctic, like the penguins.
Gotcha. Okay. So you need a cold. You kind of need all the biomes represented, and then wyvern trench on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The wyvern trench is huge because there's so many maps that don't have that.
Gotcha. So Valguero is not a bad one either, then. As you progress up, you're going to get really, really cool stuff. So I think for the end game stuff, for the end game players, this offers a lot more because we hit that ceiling at end game where you're like, all right, well, I've already fought all the bosses. I have all my tech stuff. Like, what do I do now? You're finding yourself bored. Primal Fear is definitely a good option for that. On a whole pros and cons, I like it. I like the diverseness. I like that there's all sorts of different creatures. I like the size. I like that they made some of the little creatures rideable. I will say towards the end of it, when we get into more of the boss fighting, the world boss fighting, you are definitely seems to be like you're pigeonholed into using only certain things to be able to fight a boss. Now, the same argument can be said about normal Ark. You know, if you don't take Rexes or a certain animal into a boss fight, you're going to lose, which is normally the case unless your server settings are changed. But I really don't like being pigeonholed. I really don't like being forced to have to use a certain tame to beat a boss, which is kind of a bummer for me. But outside of that, really, for the mod being this big, it's very reliable. We used Primal Fear on 2 of the servers we played on in the past, and I was surprised by the stability versus the size. This is a very big mod, but it's also a very stable mod. We had very limited crashes, and most of the crashes that we had were in conjunction with other mods that we had added onto the server as well. So it actually wasn't this at all. Now, I know that we could have made this mod 3 hours long and still not covered everything, but I really wanted to just get the core basics down to really just tell you what you're looking at and what to expect when you go in here. Again, all in all, I think the pros outweigh the cons, and again, I want to thank Raptor out here for helping me out talking about some of the teams in here. But all right, guys, that's pretty much it. I want to thank Raptor for hanging out with me and kind of going through this stuff. Be sure to check out him on Mixer as well. He's usually on our stream when we stream Friday and Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. I know this was a short mod. I know it was kind of a quicker-ish mod, but I was too worried that I was going to go too far down the rabbit hole with this mod and reviewing that it was going to take 3 hours, and I didn't want to do it to you guys. But if the community is looking for more in-depth Primal Fear stuff, we can definitely keep that in mind and maybe kind of dive a little bit more into the nitty-gritty details of it. Raptor seems to be incredibly enthused, and I'll be honest, I'm intrigued about it again, so it might be an option later on down the road. But that's it, guys. That's all I got. Please like, please subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys think, and until next time.